Hey, this is Shaun with the Atlanta Tennis Podcast, powered by Go Tennis. Check out our calendar of Metro Atlanta tennis events at letsgotennis.com. And if you're a fan of Bull Shark Sports, go to shop.letsgotennis.com. Get yourself a hoodie or a hat. Also, we want to hear from you. We want to hear your story on the podcast. So if you have a story to share, go to letsgotennis.com/my story, and you might have your story featured on the Atlanta Tennis Podcast. Today, this is Youth Sports Talk with Coach Ben Hestley. Today's question answered is, at my kids' practice, they do the same thing every week. Is that bad? And I'm sure there's a parent asking that every week, not sure what they're looking at or why. So, Ben, you ready to talk youth sports?
Let's do it.
So, today's conversation focuses on that question based around repetition. And in tennis, we call it stroke production, or one of the things that we do in that setting, which takes repetition. I'm assuming baseball is the same. I know soccer is the same. Where variety is good for keeping things fresh and fun, repetition of the fundamentals is important. It's extremely important. So, Ben, as a coach trainer yourself, I'm sure you've got some experience here. So where do you want to start?
First, let's answer the question. Like your question was, my kids' practice looks the same every week. Is that bad? And my answer is absolutely not. And I think that's hugely beneficial. You and I both know, pick a sport and we could just create a laundry list of all the skills that you would need to be good at that sport. And what happens is we forget that kids need a lot of repetition with one skill. And then sometimes a skill, getting good at one skill will build upon the next skill. And so sometimes we try to, as coaches and parent coaches or professional coaches, we try to, throw a bunch of different things at them in variety. It does nothing but overwhelm them, and they don't learn the as you mentioned, the fundamentals. So I think creating a consistent structure is super key for having a successful program or team or whatever it is. The kids also get comfortable with that, right? They start coming into practices. They know what to expect. And okay, we're going to do this first, and then this, and then this. And your drills can in games can change, or you can progress them and make them more difficult. But pretty much it stays the same. And I think that it's not a bad thing at all. In fact, it's oftentimes a sign of a great coach and a great program.
So that makes me think of two things. I've got the concept of and I'll use ours as an example compared to something I did as a kid. So our lesson plans have a section in there, if we want to, for a new thing, either each week or once a month. But every time you do your warm up, then you do your forehands and backhands, depending on the age, or you do warm up and then you do your serves. So you have this structure, like you said, that the kids get to know. And if in baseball, you're going to do your warm up and your Frankenstein walks and you get everybody going, and then you do a catch and you take a step back and do a catch and take a step back. They want to know those first few minutes are a routine or something they're used to, because they're also going to talk to each other. They're also going to be social. That's why they're
Right.
there. You don't want a bunch of kids showing up and saying, "Shut up, I need to tell you a new thing." That's
Yeah.
just a hard thing to do with a group. So if I look at that one section each week or once a month where we're going to introduce something new, that also takes longer to explain. So once they get into a groove, it doesn't mean we're going to overdo it, but it does mean this is the routine. All right, now we're going to learn something new. Can we prepare the kids for that new time? Say, all right, now we're going to do something new. Now they know, okay, they need to stop talking, settle in, and really focus. This is something they haven't done before. Can we do it that way? Is it that easy?
Absolutely. I mean, and the good thing is you actually get more practice time and more time for new things if you have a consistent structure. So if the kids come in, they start knowing what exactly to expect. Your warm up goes faster. For us, it's, break it down into three buckets, right? We have our warm up, we have our skill development, we have our game development, so the warm up is the warm up. Everything from tossing and catching to, like you mentioned, Frankensteins or jumping jacks, skipping, the dynamic warm up type stuff. Then your skill development, what's the fundamentals we're going to work on today? And then what's the game, right? How do those fundamentals that we learned apply to a game situation? And in baseball, they're different. Like a lot of times at the end of practice, of a baseball or softball practice, we'll do like some sort of scrimmage, right? Maybe it's coach pitch, maybe it's player pitch, but it's some sort of game, right? Looks like baseball, looks like softball, right? Tennis, same thing, right? We talk about this all the time. The end, my program, we play champs and challengers. 90% of the time, the last 20 to 25 minutes of practice, that's the game development time. So it's broken down into those three buckets. But yeah, the kids start knowing what to expect and you move through those segments a lot faster, then you can throw in some new stuff or do more of whatever it is that you want to be working on.
Yeah, I had kids recently this week even asking, say, hey, Coach Shaun, why don't we do catchy bug anymore? I said, well, you don't need it. She said, well, what do you mean we don't need it? It was a game. I liked it. I said, right, but now you're doing, and in this case, catchy bug is just tossing and hitting a ball on the fence with your serve. It's a serve practice, but it's a beginner serve practice. And these kids are the advanced beginners. And they were missing a previous game, or the little kids, they want to play fireball at the net. Well, now we play dirty rat. So the games are similar, but we can also change them around enough that makes it to the kid very different. But the parent's still looking up, seeing kids on dots hitting volleys and then moving over to the side and hitting another volley. So it almost, from a parent point of view, they might not actually know how different it really is. And in baseball, it's the same thing. Well, maybe ball's coming to you. I need to go left instead of going right today. And that's a hard skill to learn if I'm going to catch a ball and throw to the right versus the left, if it's the first time I've done it. So maybe the parent is looking at what looks like the same thing every day, but maybe it's not.
Oh, and that's what progression is, right? I mean, we talk about progressions all the time in coaching, regardless of what sport is. And what is a progression? It's simply making the activity more challenging. I can tell you a real simple example in baseball. It'll say you're working ground balls, right? You want to progress to the next level, add base runners, right? So now, Shaun, I'm hitting you a ground ball to shortstop. You're going to field it and throw it to first base. There's no pressure. There's nobody on. I mean, the only pressure is you might miss it and be somewhat embarrassed in front of your teammates and coaches or whatever. But for the most part, there's no pressure. Okay, you get pretty good at that. I mean, let's add a base runner and see if you can field the ball, funnel it, and throw to first before that base runner crosses first base. Our game's called Beat It. We play a lot. And half the kids are base runners, half the kids are somewhere in the infield, right? First, second, shortstop, or third. I also like it, just as a side note, because it gets two activities, two skills in one. Okay, I'm really big on can we knock out? There's so much to learn in this game. Can we knock out two skills in one? If I can have, okay, you guys are going to focus on your base running, and you guys are going to focus on your fielding, and we create a game out of it. It's fun, it's energetic, but we're still working the fundamental skill of effectively fielding a ground ball.
And please tell me you're playing the Michael Jackson song "Beat It" while you're playing this game.
Nobody knows that anymore. I mean,
It doesn't matter. Play
we
it
are
anyway.
old.
It raises the energy level. For who cares if they've heard of it before?
Yeah.
I mean, we have a game called Ghostbusters. Guess what I do? We play the music. They either know it or they don't. I don't care. It just raises the energy level, makes it more fun.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna steal your catchy bug. Back to that. We do the same activity. We just simply call it fence traps.
Okay.
Where they're just tossing the ball, and stand sideways to the fence, right? And they toss it, and you just trap it with your racket, bracking that serve. Yeah, well, that's what you're talking about, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, so I'm renaming. I'm stealing that, bud. I'm going catchy bug. That's gonna, because sometimes the name makes a difference, right? Because for me, we go, okay, guys, we're about to serve today. Before we serve, let's all go grab a ball, find some space on the fence, and we're gonna do our serve traps. Let's do 15, let's do 20 over. And the kids are just like, oh, I gotta do the
serve traps. It sounds so boring, right?
Yeah. So I'm like, maybe we say, hey, we're doing our catchy bugs. They'll be all into it, right?
And
sometimes
they are.
Sometimes the name makes the game, right?
We do that a lot. And I joke with the kids sometimes, especially if I've got a new group, whatever the game is, I'll actually say, all right, this is a game called Coach Shaun tries to hit you in the face with a tennis ball and you try to stop him. And they all kind of look at me like, huh? I'm like, I'm kidding. It's called Fireball. And all of a sudden, but I've actually given them an explanation of the game in my little bit joke that says, hey, here's what's coming at you, but we're really not going to name it that way. And I'm a philosophy guy. So coming out of college, naming things is really important. And the kids wrap their heads around it. They take, you can take a whole concept and put it into a single word. and like catchy bug, and they go, oh, they go, and they all go, and they stick the racket behind their head, and their arm goes out straight, and they know to keep the straight line between their arm and their elbow, and all of those things are encompassed. All of those reminders and skill sets are in that same thing. Now, when a parent sees that and they go, oh, it's catchy bug time again, then I do what you do. And I think coaches are probably trained to do this. You're going to do X number of catchy bugs, and then you're going to run over to the net and you're going to do a smash. And then you can start taking the stations and saying, okay, well, what's smash? Well, it's catchy bug over the net. It's the exact same thing. It's the same skill, but it looks completely different. And then we're going to back up and do it at the service line. And then we're moving on. So the progression fits in, obviously, with this. Does it look the same every day? But also in our world, in the beginner world, I'll say, and as we come to the end of the time, it's my world's beginner. You're with a few beginners, probably more intermediates. But if we look even at the advanced level, I'm guessing Novak's doing a lot of the same things every day. Is that probably true?
Oh, totally. I mean, they all have their routine. You know, they might tweak it from here, you know, here or there, whatever. I need more work on this, or I may need more work on that. You know, but it's pretty much the same routine from here on out. And that doesn't mean the content can't change. Doesn't mean you can't do something a little bit more make something a little more challenging, or do something a little bit different today, right? But I think the biggest thing is the structure stays the same. You know, I think about Law and Order, right? One of my favorite shows. I'm proud to say I've seen all 500 or 600 or whatever episodes that have aired in over their 20-year span. So Law and Order, you know, ran from 1990 to 2010, a 20-year span there. They took a hiatus and they cranked it. It was so popular. There was something that the reruns were ridiculous. I mean, there's still reruns, you know, every night on TV. So what do? I mean, the viewership on reruns was off the chart. So let's do the show again, right? So in 2022 they started the show again. But I always think like it's such a simple show. It's the same show every time, right?
The
Why is
format
it so
matters.
popular? What's that?
The format matters.
The format matters, you know? I mean, opening scene, there's a dead person, okay? Then the cops come in, investigate who killed the dead person.
Cheesy line.
Right. Then the and those are great too, right? Those
Yeah.
little cheesy subtleties that
Yeah.
they throw in. But then you got, you know, the attorneys come in and prosecute the case, right? Then there's a verdict. It's the same thing. It's the same structure every show, and people know what to expect, and that's why it's grown or did grow and has grown, still is such a popular show.
Is this what we call a recipe for success?
I mean, you want to go cheesy lines, my friend. That's pretty much it right there.
Exactly. All right. So Ben, did we answer the question? At my kids' practice, they do the same thing every week. Is that bad? Your initial answer was absolutely not, meaning no, it's not bad. Yes, it's good. Is that still your answer?
Absolutely. I'm a firm believer in repetition. Focus on the fundamentals. We also, as adults, sometimes we take for granted how much practice a child needs to get good at something, right? And especially kids are only coming to soccer once a week or baseball once a week, and then maybe there's a game.
That's not enough, by the way. Sorry to interrupt. Parents,
No,
if you're watching this, it's not enough. Stop looking at your tennis coach when he sees your kid 45 minutes a week trying to figure out why your kid's not getting better. It's not possible. Once a week isn't enough for anything. Give them more or do something else.
yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
yeah.
That's been driving, it's been on my chest.
Yeah,
Like
it's
once
something,
a week
yeah,
isn't enough, and it's so tennis specific.
yeah.
Everybody goes to soccer 3 days a week, and you got games on the weekends, and their kids kind of getting better, and they're really enjoying it. And they take one tennis lesson for 30 minutes a week, and they're like, "Why can't he hit topspin yet?" There's your answer. Once a
It's
week
a
is not enough.
process, right? It's a
Yeah.
process, and you gotta you know, and it's not linear either, man. Sometimes I mean sometimes I always feel like, and I use this pun intended for baseball. Like as soon as I feel like I've got it figured out, here comes a curveball,
Yeah.
right? And something out, the kid was not feeling this well, or he's growing, and something changes. It's just you know, it's not linear, you know, it's peaks and valleys, man. And you just got to kind of ride the waves and you know, focus on some simple things that they can continue to get better at.
And do it often. We practice at home. Take your kids out to the tennis courts, in the driveway, whatever it is. Remember, they're a new person every day. They're growing. Things are
Yep.
weird. Things are different. They got a new tooth that they didn't have last week. I mean, we just don't deal with that. And we think, well, why can't you just do the same thing over and over again? Well, we're the
Yeah.
same mostly as we were yesterday. They're not. And so that repetition really does matter. Ben, I appreciate it as always. This has been Youth Sports Talk with Coach Ben Hestley. We'll see you again next week. Thank you, sir.
Thanks for listening, everybody.